actually shut down the budget wasn't about the budget per se. And what I mean by that is a lot of our discussions about the budgets now are about spending and how to pay for stuff. In 1995, the reason why Clinton vetoed the budget was because the Republican-controlled Congress had attached what's called a Rider Amendment, R-I-D-E-R, Rider Amendment. And a Rider Amendment is an amendment added to legislation not directly related to that legislation. And so they had attached a Rider Amendment banning partial birth abortion procedures, which happen like once a year. And that piece of legislation, Clinton was like, I'm going to veto it. And they're like, no, you won't. It's the budget. It'll shut it down. So he's like, no, really. So they did it. He gets to his desk. He vetoes it. That causes the first shutdown. Goes back to the Congress. Congress is like, oh, well, he clearly won't do it again. Let's do it again. And so they send it back with the same Rider Amendment attached to it. He's like, no, really, I'm going to veto this. And so he vetoed it. Government shuts down again for a couple of days. And then the Republicans back off and remove that Rider Amendment to just pass the actual budget so that gets through. So that was that government shutdown. So I just wanted to say that aloud to you so that you knew that there were other things at work besides just the like money and stuff. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, fine. Leslie. 37, where are you at? That's unfortunate. Okay, you ready? Your enthusiasm over the potential that you are going to win $10 free.
Houston. Thank goodness for that. It's going to get me one. Yeah. Most of our country's oil comes from Saudi Arabia. Okay. Yeah. You know what the name of the platform that's built it was? Deepwater Horizon. Tell me some other stuff about oil. Yeah. There are often big oil spills. That's good. Little unverifiable. Yeah. Actually, renewable resources, that's the abiotic debate. We'll get there. Yeah.
The majority of our oil comes from the Gulf of Mexico.
The majority of oil comes. I thought the majority of it came from Saudi Arabia. Or the Gulf of Mexico. There's no one source that accounts for the majority of it. I'll take that answer too. What else? I saw a lot of hands. Somebody else tell me something. Pardon? Akazi oil? Alright. Arsenic oil. That'll work too. Okay. There is such a thing as Akazi oil too. Alright. Oil is the prime mover, essentially, of the global economy at this point. Alright? It is the single most important resource that anyone anywhere has. Alright? It is also overwhelmingly, and I mean overwhelmingly, the single fuel that moves transportation in the entire world. Alright? Some things used to run on coal. Alright? There used to be like locomotives, right? Or like the Titanic and stuff like that worked on coal. They don't anymore. Alright? Everything, and I mean everything, if it moves, it pretty much runs on oil, with the exception of like the Nissan Leaf is the singular, and the Tesla, the two literally only electric cars that could potentially be fueled by something other than oil. All right. Chevy Bolt has a gasoline-driven engine in it. Yeah. Questions? Pardon? CNG. Okay, yeah, that's true. Honda makes a couple LNG vehicles. UPS trucks run on LNG. Which is, by the way, oil. Didn't know that, did you? Yeah. Yep, oil is a lubricant for the engines. True. Yeah.
Oil being used as a lubricant.
Yes, it does all the time. And we see like a bunch of smoke billowing out of somebody's car. That's their oil burning.
You can also make cars run off propane.
Speak up.
You can also make cars run off propane.
Yes, you can, but where do you get propane from? See? All right. Who discovered oil?
Me.
The dinosaurs are oil. All right. We should consult them for some solutions to our current energy crisis. If only we had an island somewhere off the coast of South America where we could recreate them genetically. Someone should think of that.
Okay.
All right. Maybe we should tamper with nature. I think it's a good bet. That's Noel Jackson. All right. So oil is everything on this topic, because everything on this topic runs on oil. Jet planes, oil. Cars, oil. Trains, oil. Boats, oil. Everything, oil. All right? Who built the first modern oil well? When did the whole oil world start? Because we've had oil since before the Roman Empire and the Greeks. All right? As long as we've got history, people have had oil, because that stuff just bubbles up around Baghdad, which was, people argue, generally speaking, is the beginning of civilization. All right? Tigris, Euphrates, rivers, learn about it in history class. So, we've had oil forever, but in 1859 in Titusville, Pennsylvania, this handsome fella, Edwin Drake, built the first modern oil well. Alright? Up until then, like I said, we were relying on two major types of fossil fuels. What was the first one? I already named it. Coal, right? The other one was peat moss. Alright? But that only comes from whales, pretty much. Alright? That stuff burns dirty, it burns cold, it doesn't burn very efficiently, and it's really hard to move around because it's heavy. It's coal and peat moss. Alright? It's not real fun to drive around with a car and then 3 trailers behind you full of coal to fuel your car. Oil, it turns out, is much better. The problem is, it's way down in the ground. Alright? Really quite deep, in fact, in most places, with one exception, which we'll get to later. Alright? So, this dude, because he had a really cool beard, was able to extract oil from the ground by drilling a well. That's right. Arabia. Is Saudi Arabia the world's number one? Does Saudi Arabia have the world's largest number of proven reserves? Wrong. They actually don't. Somebody just give me the right answer. It's Venezuela now, actually. Has more oil than anybody else. Alright? Proven reserves. Saudi Arabia still has a ton. Venezuela beat them by like 3 barrels this last year. But that's still some pretty impressive stuff. Alright, Russia has a ton of oil. Saudi Arabia has a ton of oil. Who else has a lot of oil? Say what?
Canada.
Canada has a decent amount of oil.
United States.
Okay. Kuwait. So let's just say the Gulf, right? The Arabian Peninsula pretty much was at one point or another, it appears to have been completely covered in dinosaurs. Alright, actually dinosaurs don't make oil. It's mostly plants and especially little sea creatures. Alright? So, here's a good bit of FYI for you. Does everyone notice how like the walls of this building all have little shells in them?
Yeah.
Right? What kind of stone is that out there?
Lion.
It's sedimentary and not.
It's sedimentary. It's limestone for the most part. Limestone and or sandstone, although sandstone you can just scratch through it, so it's limestone. Alright? Guess where you find oil? Limestone. What kind of limestone is this? Texas limestone, right? Every building in this state, it appears, is built out of Texas limestone. There was oil in there at some point. Right. Yes, well it drained out of it. You need to have limestone to have really good crude oil reserves. Alright? You have to have a huge sedimentary limestone. Alright? Which is why in Texas, which happens to be a state composed almost entirely of limestone, about 40 feet beneath the surface dirt that we're sitting on, also happens to be a state that's basically one gigantic oil reserve. Ditto with Saudi Arabia. Alright? Venezuela is very similar in the lower areas of it, on either side of the Andes Mountains that run through part of it, okay? Underneath the jungles, all oil. It's all limestone. Alright? So all those shells, those holes you see in the limestone in the walls of this building, alright? What used to live inside of those, along with all the bacteria and plants that were at the bottom of the seafloor at one point, right, where like things in shells live, alright, decayed and turned into oil. Alright? All those little holes you see in that rock were at one point or another probably filled with oil. But you gotta practice. So, do you think that's the kind of thing that you just drill a hole into it? You know, all of a sudden oil just comes rushing up then? Do you see like oil oozing out of the walls of this building? No. Who's heard of something called fracking? What is it? Fracking is hydraulic fragmentation. Alright? You pump water into the ground. This guy invented it. Alright? And what it does is it pushes the oil out. Alright? That's the way you have to make oil wells get going. And once you get the right pressure going, just like in a water well or something, then it'll start oozing up. Or it'll start exploding up very quickly once the pressure's right. How many of you know what an oil derrick is? It's the big oil thing you're used to seeing. Alright? And then there's the pump thing that goes like that. Alright? Yep. So, this dude invented it. And as a result, in 1859, the world economy transformed almost overnight. The Industrial Revolution rapidly sped up. And for the first time, we had, within a matter of 50 years, a almost truly global market involving the most important principle of market economics. What would that principle be? That would be supply and demand. Alright? This is, and we're going to spend almost a half an hour maybe on this little chart right here, moving it around and doing some stuff with it. If you can understand the way this works, you're going to understand how to debate oil for the rest of the season. Alright? There's two curves in a supply and demand chart. $100 to the person who can guess it first.
Supply and demand.
Jerry, I was lying. Alright? Which one is the supply curve? Does anyone have an econ class?
The blue one.
The blue curve is supply. amount of oil purchased, right? The amount of the supply, the amount of the demand, which is how much people buy, and conveniently enough, right here, oil's price. Now, everybody got it? Yes.
So, for example, if you have lots of marijuana, things
Exactly. If you've only got one barrel, but if there's supply, we're going to get to that. That causes shifting in curves. We'll get there. All right. Supply and demand, right? It's all about price. Wherever the price is, where the demand and the supply are. So, normally speaking, all right, the way that you evaluate different events is to move these curves around, either to the left, to the right, up, or down. All right, it changes the way ultimately that oil or the price of any good works. So, under normal conditions, finger quotes on normal, or typical growth, right? Watch what happens. See, we're there, and then we're there. What has happened to both of those curves? Both have shifted to the right. All right? With the shift to the right, what has happened? For a given price, they're willing to supply a little bit more. All right? For a given amount of price, people demand a little bit more. All right? They're willing now to pay. They're willing to pay more for the same thing because there's higher amounts of demand. And that is how typical growth ought to work for a product. All right? As our demand for oil increases, as the population of the world grows, as the Chinese and Indian economies come online, all right, and begin to want to have a middle class. What do people in the middle class want more than anything else? Cars. They love to drive cars. All right? They like to build roads. They like to do all of that. All right? How many people combined are in China and India together? More than 2 billion. All right? It's going to be close to 3 billion really soon. All right? They are only now just beginning to develop middle class economies. All right? Who's the world's #1 consumer of oil? We consume 25% of the world's oil. Why do we do that? Because we have a really big middle class that loves to drive things and fly things and move everywhere. How many people do we have? 300 million. So, 2 nations combined that make up 10 times as many people as our greedy selves in the United States are rapidly, at an unprecedented race, becoming accustomed to living a lifestyle that depends on using a lot of oil. Ruh-roh, we're going to run out of oil really soon, all right? And we don't seem to have an alternative energy supply that works too well yet. Chevy Bolts are really cool looking, but they cost $40,000 and they break all the time. All right, I drive a Prius. It's totally adorable. All right, but again, it's really expensive, and we don't exactly sell a lot of those in China and India. All right? So, these curves are shifting. They're shifting rapidly. The price of oil has more than doubled in the last 5 or 6 years. Right? Now, let's suppose, now we're on this curve, we have this increased demand. All right? Let's assume for a second, though, that let's say it's roughly, let's pretend for a minute that we're in a time machine. And we're going to go back to October of 2008.
Oh, God.
All right? Suddenly, there's this company called Lehman Brothers. All right? And it goes wildly out of business in a massive explosion of horror. All right? At which point then, the stock market takes a dive, and the deepest recession since the Great Depression begins. And suddenly, nobody has any money anymore. All right? What should happen to these curves? Oil prices should go like this. All right? They should go down because demand is going to decline. Because recession. And so they're like, uh-oh. All right, let's not buy as much. So as a result, prices go down, people supply a little less oil, everything happens, it's okay, you know, it's just what happened. What actually happened in 2008 though, oil prices and everything? Yeah, no, they went like this. They went up, too. All right? Why do you think that is? The market did not behave in a typical growth pattern. Why? Okay, there was still a lot of Indian and Chinese demand that filled in the back there.
Is it,
Speculation is one possibility, yes. Other reasons, you answered like every question this once. Anybody else? All right, you get your chance then. People wanted money. All right, yeah. Bam! What's her name? Tyler got it right. Oil's not a typical good, unfortunately. It'd be great if it was. What happens if I run a factory that produces, I don't know, cars or something? I don't know. All right, and there's a bunch more demand for something. What do?
raise the price?
Yeah, I run another shift, I raise the price of it, I make some more cars, I sell more cars. Can you just go all of a sudden now and just be like, oh wow, the world wants twice as much oil. Sweet, we'll just go to our oil factory and we'll just make more oil. No, we're already using all of it for the most part. All right, you're going to find out a little bit about this in the debate later. But the question is there's a limited amount of oil on the planet and there's nothing we can do about it, really, aside from just try and drill more. But as we explained before, it took us more than 2,000 years to figure out how to even drill a modern oil well. All right? So it's not the sort of thing where you can just be like, oh, cool, give me a shovel. You know, let's get some oil going here. It takes a decade or more sometimes to develop a productive commercial oil well. All right? So oil is not behaving in typical supply and demand ways, right? The reason is what we call peak oil, is one suggestion. There is an economist. His name is Hubbard. All right? He has a curve. It looks like this. All right? It correlates, strangely enough, to a bunch of things. I put this up kind of as a joke. If you actually graph the occurrence of songs in Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time, the rate of oil discoveries charts perfectly along with it. So things do not bode well for rock music quality as the future comes along and oil discoveries continue to decline. All right. What Hubbard has theorized is pretty simple. There is a moment, right about now, all right, where oil discovery and oil production will peak. All right, it'll reach its highest point right there. And after that, there's going to be less and less oil to discover. The reason, on this slide I accidentally messed up, it's not going to display because I'm bad at this, all right, is that there's multiple types of oil. All right? What are some of the different types of oil? We've named them off before. Let's crowdsource this one. Huh? Crude oil. But there's more than one type of crude oil. Yeah. There's shale oil. Good. What is shale? Does anyone know what shale oil is? Yeah. Exactly. Before oil wound up in limestone, it was just basically dirt soaked in oil, kind of. Tar sands, you may have heard of these. They have a lot of them in Canada, North Dakota, and Montana. All right? Over a couple million years, when you get other stuff piling on top of them and adding pressure to things, that makes the oil liquid. But before it gets liquid, it's in shale. It's in a tar sand. All right? That's called dirty crude, is what it's referred to a lot of times. All right? Or write this one down. You'll hear it referred to as tight crude. That is distinguished from, write this one down, sweet crude. All right? The sweetest crude oil on Earth is found in the Arabian Peninsula and some of the earliest wells in Texas. That stuff you can take out of the ground and immediately do whatever you want with it. It's the best stuff, and it's what we've been running on for about the first 100 years of the oil age. And now we can't find any more of it. You got to do more to it in order to, here's the next word to write down that you're going to find, to crack it. Alright? Oil, when it comes up, it's nasty, it's black, it's thick, it sticks to everything. You just pump that into your car and drive off.
No.
You split it up into several things. The first thing you get out of it is gasoline, which you can blend to anything. You crack different pieces of the molecules out of oil using other chemicals. That happens at refineries. How many of you have ever been east of Houston, down towards Galveston? Alright, or any of you from like the Clear Lake area or anything? Alright, how bad does it smell east of Houston? Huh? It's disgusting, alright? Huh? Mark? Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm in like week 3 of living there, so I live downtown, but still. Alright? If I live by the Met Center, it doesn't smell good either. Alright, but the city of Houston smells bad. I got bad Houston pride, man. I live there now. It's cool. Alright, but seriously, we need these massive refineries to crack the oil molecules, alright, or to refine them and split them. You get things like kerosene, alright, which is what jets run on for the most part, actually. Jets run on really crappy fuel, in fact. Alright, I don't have to say that. I just did, so there you go. Alright? They run on really, really low-grade fuel, oddly. Alright? You get gasoline. You get plastics are all pretty much made of oil for the most part. All the molecules you need to make plastic come out when you crack oil. Sweet crude, easy to crack. Dirty crude, very hard to crack. Alright? Now, on Senor Hubbard's curve here, what happens is not only are we running out of oil, you got a question? Huh? Oil. Yeah. Plastic comes out of oil. Yeah. Depends, actually. I mean, millions and millions of years ago, it started off as a bunch of plants and dinosaurs. Alright? They die. They decay. The most important molecule in all of oil, well, the most important element is carbon. Alright? The most important element in you also happens to be carbon. Alright? So, someday, millions of years from now, you'll be oil.
Yes.
Alright? As you break down in heat and pressure, make bigger molecules and turn you into oil, basically. Yeah. Pardon? Yeah, but, I mean, it takes millions of years is the problem. It's not the kind of thing you can just speed up. At least not on the scale we would need it. Question?
Wait, so your favorite brand, how much is plastic?
Yes, there's a ton of oil in literally every single thing in this room. Every single thing in this room, including you, have a ton of oil in them. You know, you eat a bunch of it every day. Right? You need a ton of oil and oil products. Every single thing in here. This desktop, mostly oil. Alright? The carpet, primarily oil. Huh? Without oil, nothing in this room is humanly possible. Literally, it's not. Alright? You have to refine all that stuff. The only exception is that we're producing some gasoline from ethanol now. Alright? Which comes and causes a bad smell in the other place I used to live, Iowa. Back to... I think I'm just bad on one question. Yeah, exactly. I'm broke because I'm a debate coach, so I have to live somewhere with cheap housing. And then I'm a grad student, so I don't get to pick where I live, basically. Alright, we go back to Hubbard's curve now. Alright, this is the first debate argument I want to sort of get into here. Alright? There are two schools of thought, basically, when it comes to oil economics. And the question that they go to find a way to use less oil really soon. All right, everybody with me? Ready? Oh, come on. All right.
Come on, reason it.
All right. So here's the problem with the peak oil phenomenon as well. All right. The world doesn't go crazy because I'm going to back it up here one slide, couple slides real quick. All right. What is the cool thing about this chart, right? They move, and people anticipate the future. All right. Because the charts go like this. All right. So when the charts move, they don't move because the economy naturally just sort of happens. It's because we anticipate changes in oil prices and the price of any good. So we start to stockpile them. Or, for instance, what happens, let's just say, theoretically, all right, that you're a really big country. Let's call you United States. Okay? And you have a really, really, really big military. All right? And let's suppose that there's some other country someplace, all right, that has a lot of oil. All right? Let's presuppose further that there's another country, let's just call it China. All right? And let's say they're going to want a bunch of oil too. And let's even say every time this fourth country, we're going to call it Iran, all right, does anything really stupid, like tries to build nuclear weapons, all right, because they have a bunch of oil that they sell to that other country, China, whenever you try to do something about it, China's like, no, we're going to veto that. You can't do anything about this fourth country that makes nuclear weapons. All right, because we want your oil. Let's say there's a third country that we discussed before that has some oil, right? And let's just riff on the name of the fourth country. Let's call it Iraq. All right, let's say it has a bunch of oil, maybe a top 10. If you were the United States, what would the smart thing to do be? That wouldn't be a bad idea if you wanted to get that oil.
Be nice to them. Ask them for oil.
Be nice to them, ask them for oil. You might want to secure as much oil as possible. All right? We fought countless wars over oil. How many people? Okay, that was like the second Gulf War, right? What was the first Gulf War? What year was it? 91. All right? Were any of you alive then?
No.
Not a single one of you. I was older than you then. That's so sad for me. Yes. Because there has to be certain types of rock for the oil to form. It has to be under a limestone formation that then has to subsequently be covered with a much heavier rock, either marble or granite or some other very strong sedentary geologic formation. It has to happen primarily underneath seawater in order for it to form properly, which is why the vast majority of the world's oil reserves, all right, there's plenty of oil for us to go for another 200 years. Almost all of it is trapped under the very deep ocean and will forever and ever be inaccessible to us because it's way too deep, basically. All right. So there's a lot of oil. We can only get to some of it. All right. So getting back to fighting wars. All right. 1991, First Gulf War, definitively about oil. All right. Not the United States' access to it. It started because Iraq invaded Kuwait. Has anyone by chance read why Iraq invaded Kuwait?
Oil.
Yeah, oil. Kuwait's a teeny little country, it's right next to Iraq, has a bunch of oil, we described that, was doing horizontal drilling, which is pretty simple. It means you drill down, you get down to where the oil is, and you just keep drilling, and it takes away all of your oil, right? Eventually your oil well dries up. All right, but oil comes in big fields, right? They're thin layers within the Earth's crust, but they're spread very widely out. So what do? cool, stop. And Kuwait was like, we're not doing anything. What are you talking about? All right? And then Iraq said, no, seriously, dude, stop. And Kuwait said, we're not going to stop. And then Iraq said, okay, cool, you're the size of a reasonably middle-sized city. We're going to invade you. And then we did, and then we fought a big war to free Kuwait. All right? Mostly because they were stealing Iraq's oil. All right? That happened. All right? Pardon? Oh, absolutely. To this day, we still pump oil out of Iraq underneath Kuwait. Huh? Well, when you have a big military, that's what you get to do. All right. Yeah. So, the problem is, do you know what the thing that uses, aside from cars, more oil than anything else? Heating buildings. No. What else? Wrong. Magic? Did you say? Trains? No. What up? No.
Electricity generation.
Bros. No.
Nice.
No one's gonna get closer. All right? Food. Food. You have to fertilize to grow crops. All right? You know what Miracle Grow's made of?
Oil.
Oil. No. No, it doesn't have the right type of oil. Right? It doesn't have an octane molecule in it. All right? All right. Food requires as much oil as everything but cars. So, as oil prices go up, what do you think goes up? Food prices. It starts getting to be really expensive to eat. Alright? Because food prices get really expensive. Because fertilizer is really expensive because they pass that cost on to you. So, is everyone starting to see the way that this picture is coming together here now? Alright? We're reaching the peak of production. The prices are going up. What happens when production goes down? Huh? What happens to prices, do you think? They go way up because the supply curve shifts over, like we described before. Alright? We eat oil, in essence. All of our cheap food depends on oil. Our driving depends on oil. So this chart doesn't just shift a little bit, it shifts all the way over here, very rapidly. Because not only at the same time is oil production rapidly declining, not only are people speculating and guessing that oil prices are going to go way up, they do, all right? But then there's 10 times as many people as make for those curves in the next 10 years that want all of the stuff that we're using all of this oil to eat and drive. It's a bit of a pickle right now that we're in, isn't it? All right? So, wars start. All of those things kind of happen. It gets a little bit messy. All right? This is where peak oil dissettles. The argument then is that we need something to buffer. My next slide. No. We need something to buffer this next transition. All right? What do you think would be a good way to do that? What's the #1 user of oil in the world? What things?
Cars.
Cars. All right? So, what would be a good way to make people use less oil and make this less of a roller coaster?
Electricity.
Alternative energy. What else? Make cars more expensive. Come on. Wait, what? Perhaps some sort of transportation, wait for it, infrastructure. Anyone help me fill the rest of this one out? Huh? Transportation infrastructure investment.
Whoa.
I know. Mind blown. All right. What if, let's say, a bunch of people, instead of driving their cars and causing this catastrophe, actually rode trains instead, or took the bus? Do you think that might help us a little bit? So you got yourself there a bit of an affirmative advantage. All right. Question number 2. What happens when you burn oil? back over there. I haven't heard much from this area of the world. All right. What's the big problem with burning oil? Huh? All right, okay. I want to hear from these people back there. High emissions, which causes global warming. All right. So we've got a problem with this whole thing right here. We're getting global warming. We're going to have a bunch of oil being burned. So now you have a second advantage potentially to some of your affirmatives. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in this practice debate, demonstration debate that's coming up right here. Okay. Thing. All right. You've got a global warming problem right there. Now, I want to cover one more thing. Hold on. Oh, come on. I'm not allowed to use projectors anymore. There we go. The last topic I want to cover, all right, in the limited time we have here is what's called the backstopping argument. All right, and this is the reason that it's really important to understand supply and demand. This one is about equilibrium, but it is about, as I mentioned in the all caps, equilibrium. All right. The reason is that this scenario happens. You're Saudi Arabia. You're the world's currently largest producer of oil. The United States of America, your number one customer, in fact, who uses more oil than you produce every day, all right, announces that they're suddenly going to use less oil. That's a problem, right? They're like, hey, guess what? We're going to make a transition to high-speed rail and renewable energy technologies and everything, and it's going to be awesome. We're not going to use oil anymore. What is your response? Yeah. Uh-oh. Our entire country. Does anyone know what Saudi Arabia looked like before they discovered oil there in like the 1930s and 40s? Huh? It's still a desert, but it's a very rich desert now. It was the poorest country in the world. It was literally one of the poorest countries in the world. It was pretty much a few different tribal areas, nomadically. They fought a war. The House of Saud, hence the name Saudi Arabia, won those wars in like the teens. And, not funny. As a result, then they discovered oil, and now they're the richest country in the whole world. It's kind of their gravy train, so they're going to lose that. What do you think their response would be then? They will engage in what's called backstopping. All right? Backstopping says, if I'm Saudi Arabia, why is it in the United States that someone would decide to not use oil for their car and instead use like electricity, or instead take the train? What's the number one decision that makes that work? Cost. All right? Oil, last I checked, is about $80 a barrel. All right? Gas is way up above $3 a gallon. It's way more expensive than it's ever been. So taking the train, if it's way cheaper, is really easy decision to make. Back when your equilibrium point's here. Now, what do I want to do? All right, using this chart, all right, take a second, and I don't want everyone to jump and answer real quickly. I'm Saudi Arabia. I control this curve. What do I do, all right, if people are going to start taking the train? I want everyone to take 10, 15 seconds, think about it before everyone puts their hands up and answers. Which which way do I want the curve to move?
Oh, you want supply to go up.
Huh?
You want supply to go up.
So what do I do to make supply go up?
You pump more oil.
Right? We want to make the supply go up. Because what does that do to the price of oil?
Goes down.
Right? We're here. If I'm Saudi Arabia, I want to shift the curve so that the price goes down relative to demand. I want to take this blue curve and I want to make it go that way. Because what happens when the curve goes this way? I pump more oil, but the demand curve intersects at a new point. Demand is higher now. Alright? And the price is lower. More oil happens. More oil gets used. And if I lower the price of oil, what happens to those trains?
And how many
They're empty. Nobody uses them because it's super cheap to drive. Oil's $1 a gallon again, or gasoline is. Alright? So I'm going to drive everywhere. I'm going to drive gas guzzling cars. I'm going to buy the crap that they are selling me every single day. Now, do you think Saudi Arabia just sits around and when the United States announces new energy policies and everything is just like, well, guess we're going to be broke again? No. They respond to things. That is the other way that oil is not like a typical market. Alright? It's the only time that when demand decreases, the response of the producers is to produce more, to lower the price. Guess how much oil Saudi Arabia pumps of their proven reserves in any given day. So reserves that are accessible, they can make, they can pump, they can turn into sweet, sweet crude. Guess how much they pump any day? Now what percentage? 42%. They're nowhere near peak production. The result is that they can produce way more oil than they do. Alright, they save it because they're going to run out eventually. And why would you not produce as much oil as you could? What would be the answer to that? No. Say it louder, Kirby. You underproduce to artificially inflate the price of oil. You shift that curve to the left. Alright? But if suddenly something else is going to affect that equation, can you flip the switch and produce a whole lot more oil? Hopefully yes, in order to engage in backstopping and make the oil price go low. Alright? What would happen if you're Saudi Arabia, you're unbelievably rich, but you make the price of oil cut in half to kill the United States high-speed rail project? Alright? You use up oil faster, meaning you get more quickly to that point of the peak and start going down there. There's impact number one to your backstopping disad, alright? The peak oil, it exhausts it faster. Alright? Who knows where the price of oil is set? Yeah, but like where does it get traded and stuff like that? Huh? Yeah, that's too soon, dude. No, I'm kidding. There's two places, yeah. No, it's not OPEC. New York City and London. Alright, there's two oil exchanges that set the price. Alright? Are either of those in Saudi Arabia? No. Yay for geography. So, oil has a global price. Okay? Which means that when Saudi Arabia pumps a bunch of extra oil and lowers the price goes down for everyone else. Alright? Let's name those countries again. Saudi Arabia. Oh. Alright, somebody's going to have to write these down because I literally could not be worse at using a computer. Alright. Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, who else? United States, this area of the United States in particular. Russia, thank you for getting me to the big one. Who else? Nigeria, who else? Algeria, who else? Brazil, Mexico, Kuwait, Libya. Do these sound like particularly safe countries?
No.
No. Arabia just halves the price of oil because they're afraid some people are going to use the train. Everybody else's economy, Russia, Nigeria, Texas, through the day, all right? Mexico, Venezuela, all right? All of their economies go in the tank overnight because their GDP just got cut in half. Their economy is literally worth half what it used to be in the course of a few days because the price of oil is set on markets. Instead of just being set in normal trading, it's speculated on. The economy literally just goes to zero, like from like 60 to 0. All right? What happens when Russia's economy crashes, Mr. David Card? Big war happens. All right? There's impact number 2 to your backstopping argument. All right? Third thing that happens. All right? People like to use trains. We use a lot of oil. What do high oil prices cause us to develop? Yes, they do. Thank you. You're like my answer guy, all right? So we're building renewable energy right now because oil and energy is really expensive. What happens if energy gets half as cheap?
Don't build it.
Hmm?
Don't build it.
More of it is used. We're like, hey, you want to build some windmills and solar panels? Nah. Get rid of those. All right? Renewable energies become toast. There's no reason to use them ever again. And we talked about before, when oil gets half as cheap, or half as expensive, use goes up, so we emit more CO2, and that causes more global warming. There's impact number 3. All right? Huge amount, right? It collapses the transition to renewable energies, which causes all sorts of other terrible stuff. All right? All of these happen when oil prices go down. What did I say was number 1? Huh? Oh, yeah, oil gets exhausted faster, accelerates and moves towards the peak. All right, causes conflict. Second one is producer economies collapse rapidly in the event of a rapid backstop. Third is kills the transition to renewable energies. All right? I think the backstopping disad is really important. It's the reason that I haven't talked too much about things like the Russian oil disad or stuff like that, or typical sort of oil arguments like oil dependency. First of all, I think everyone kind of gets that. Hey, we're too dependent on oil, that's bad. So let's be less dependent on oil, that makes sense. All right, it also doesn't have a very strong link. I think this backstopping argument that we've just kind of gone through, where there's a signal from the plan, a perception link, is the vastly better argument for you to make in any debate around, if you're negative, against an oil affirmative, all right? The reason is because, well, it's a couple things. First of all, it's really fast. All right? Hint, I'm writing your overview. All right? First, it's fast because it depends on perception. All right? And the link is accelerated by market speculation. Saudi Arabia can announce instantaneously upon the passage of the plan, as they have empirically done twice in the last decade, that they are going to ramp up the production of oil rapidly, hence undercutting the plan. That signal of Saudi Arabia's announcement alone decreases the price of oil very quickly, because oil is priced on contract, all right, not on actual sale. If I want to buy a barrel of oil, I can't just go buy it. I have to go to either NYMEX, which is the New York Mercantile Exchange. You don't even know that, don't worry. Or to the Brent market, all right, which is traded in the London Mercantile Exchange, or Brent, which is a type of sweet crude. And I have to bid to buy a barrel of oil 3 months from now. And then they go and pump it for me. So when I buy oil, I'm buying it guessing what its price is going to be in 3 months. Not on what it costs today. All right? So, if Saudi Arabia says to me, hey Josh, we're going to pump a bunch of new oil because those clowns in DC announced a high-speed rail. Like, they would never say, like, we're going to pump oil in an attempt to kill renewable energy. All All right, they would just say like, oh, we found a bunch of new oil, we're gonna pump it. Sweet. Because we want you to have lower oil prices. We love you guys. Awesome. All right. It'll be online in a month, and I'm buying 3 months from now. The price goes down really quick. All right, because I'm not paying today, I'm paying a minimum of 3 months. All right, a good example of how you can get. For instance, if we passed a cap and trade program, yeah, it could do that. Or if we passed a high-speed rail bill, it would still probably price it down. Or gosh, I don't know, let's say we started a war with Iran and took a bunch, or what if we passed a bunch of sanctions that prevented Iran, the world's 5th largest producer of oil, from selling their oil on the open global market and took a bunch of oil off of that market? Would that price oil up into the, say, $100 a barrel range? Kind of like happened this year? Yes, it would. All right? What if another top 10 producer called, I don't know, Iraq, got invaded by the United States, and all of their oil production went off the market in a heartbeat because we blew it all up. And then, instead of getting it back online and rebuilding it in like 6 months, all right, like we were told was going to happen, half of it was still offline 8 years later because there was an ongoing insurgency there, and we just threw up our hands and left. Would that cause market speculation and increase oil? That was a loaded question.
What?
All right. What if there was a crazy dude running the world's largest holder of oil reserves in South America, all right, who nationalized the entire industry, stole everything, and then started launching a bunch of conspiracy theories, generally trying to mess with the United States as much as possible, named Hugo Chavez? Would that maybe cause oil prices to go up?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would. It would make a lot of fear of instability. What if, hold on, this one's going to be awesome. What if there were a bunch of pirates? Arr! All right? What if there were a bunch of pirates who launched their ships in Somalia? All right? And as a result, attempted to hijack all of the ships, many of the ships, coming out of the Persian Gulf and swinging up to the Suez Canal in Egypt to take all of their oil to Europe and to the United States, where everyone wants it. What if there was a big piracy problem? But what if those pirates never once captured an actual oil tanker, but everyone was still afraid of it? Would those speculative markets that are worried about the future price of oil and not the price to pump it today, would they increase the price of oil? Yeah, they would. The interesting thing is, with the exception of Iraq, not a single one of those scenarios that I described, every one of which is true, by the way, right? Oil prices have gone up because of Iran. Oil prices have gone up substantially because of piracy concerns. Oil prices have gone up because of continued instabilities in Iraq, even though a significant portion of Iraq's oil production is back online, and Saudi Arabia pumped more oil, all right, just to make up for what we got out of Iraq, because, to be honest, they didn't mind one bit that we killed Saddam Hussein. All right, they were just like, oh, that was, you jerks, that's terrible. All right. So, oil prices went way up on fear, when in fact, more oil is being pumped than before. So what happens, so the question is that oil price, is it actually because supply is down? It's based on fear, and it's based on increasing demand. So what happens then? So it's a bubble. All right? All right? Just like that housing bubble in 2008 that popped. All right? There's an oil bubble right now. In fact, in the last month, oil's gone down 20%. Okay? It's gone from 100 to gallons, for those of you who are curious, all 2 of you. All right? And here's the crazy part, okay? If Saudi Arabia or someone were to suddenly say, that's it, we're pumping it all, and doubled their oil output, which some people suggest they could, do you think they could burst that bubble and rapidly decrease prices? Yes. Is Saudi Arabia one of the richest nations per capita on the entire planet? Yes, it is. Could they ride out low oil prices for a couple of years in order to kill every renewable energy project on the planet?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Would they do that? Don't know. All right. Have they done it twice? Yes. Can Russia ride that out? No. Venezuela can't do that. Most of the other Gulf nations can't. All right? It would cause a major problem, but it would almost assuredly kill all of the renewable energies because, like I said, they could have price in less than a day. Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is the only one that actually managed to do it.
The United States is the other country.
Yeah, the US too. Saudi Arabia is actually the other one talking about
They're all pumping at their maximum capacity. All right. Here, really short answer to this one, and then I probably need to wrap it up pretty quick here. Is that right, Tracy?
Yeah, I mean, they need a break, yeah.
Cool. Here's the deal. All right. Saudi Arabia, all of their oil is run by a national company. It's called Aramco. All right. One of the cards you're going to hear in this little debate is going to talk about Aramco. All right. Saudi Arabia is like 100% better at most other countries at producing oil. Here's why. All right. Everyone else extracts, on average, about 25% of the oil they can get from a well. All right. And they pump it at max because they use very, very bad technologies and they hurry. All right. Because when Russia finds oil, Russia pumps it as fast as it can because it clamors for the money. Russia also has very dirty crude. It's got a ton of sulfur in it. All right, so it requires extra cracking and refining. Russia's much richer in natural gas than they are oil. All right, but they still make a ton of money off of it. Saudi Arabia needs to basically not touch their gas. Their oil comes out of the ground and it practically turns into gasoline on its own. All right, and Saudi Arabia can extract from their wells at a rate of 55 to 60% if they want to of the actual reserves that are in there, compared to 25% to everyone else. All right, so they're only pumping about 50% of the oil, all right, 50% of the wells they could pump, but they also only pump at about a 25% extraction rate now, and then cap it and move on to the next well. All right, and then save the rest of it, which means they can throw a switch if they need to. In a stunning turn of events, every time oil prices have gotten near $100 a barrel and started to go over, and the American president has publicly issued a statement worrying about oil prices and talking about how he's going to tap into the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which is literally a big bunch of oil the United States hangs on to just in case prices get high. Saudi Arabia is just like, oh, let's have an OPEC meeting. Okay, let's pump a little more, guys. And the rest of OPEC is like, no! No! All right? We don't want our prices to go down. And Saudi Arabia says, yeah, but the guys that defend us from the rest of you are a little bit worried about prices, so we're going to bring them back down a bit, okay? And they do. They've got a ton of capacity. The other country that has a huge unexploited oil capacity is the United States, actually. All right? Because when prices are really high, up around $100, and I forgot to mention this earlier, all that dirty crude, all those tar sands, it's worth spending the money to turn it into gasoline at $100. All right? It's totally worth it. At $100 a barrel, why not? At $40 a barrel? No, forget it. So the amount of oil production the United States have fluctuates on the basis of price, which I forgot is the fourth impact backstop. We can go back and add that in. Increases oil dependence. Because at $40 a barrel, a significant portion of North American reserves will not be exploited. All the tar sands, all of the shale, and most American oil is now hard to get at, and it's not worth it, so they won't try. So high oil prices, maybe impacts are happening right now. Maybe, all right, the question was, is Saudi Arabia has backstopped twice, according to one of the cards that Sarah's going to read. All right? How do I know this? It's a mystery. Huh?
Where is that card?
1 and C, number 3.
Okay.
All right. Although, I don't know, I may not have highlighted it in. All right?
Okay,
So,
okay, that might help.
All right, they've done it twice in the last 10 years or so. All right, the affirmative is going through an advantage that says that oil dependency is high, and they would have, in theory, if it had been a full debate, read another advantage that says that the half solves global warming. Are you going to read the warming add-on in the 2AC?
Yeah.
All right, they're going to talk about warming. They're going to say oil use is really high right now, and it's going to cause global warming. So, global warming now, Saudi Arabia backstopped now. Seems like the dissat is not empirically false. Seems like it's empirically correct. All right, you had a question. Forgot it. Other questions? Anyone? I left out about 2 more hours worth of stuff. Sorry. I covered what I think is kind of important. What did you have a question? All right, question, yeah.
The economic collapse from like getting past or happening. That's one part.
The economic collapse from peak, all right, and peak is different than backstopping, all right, but the economic collapse from the peak, ironically enough, doesn't happen when oil production itself hits the peak. It happens before it, all right, because it's an anticipatory thing, all right. It happens when discoveries hit their peak, not production. All right, when we found all the oil, that's where the peak hits, because after that there's no more to find, and then everyone starts freaking out and fighting the wars, and then the food supply starts dwindling because they start diverting it to other places and stuff like that. That's when the peak impact hits. All right, the peak is not agreed upon. Oil economists are divided about 60-40. 60% of them think that Hubbard is wrong. 40% think that he's right. Only about 10% of that 40% think it's going to be as catastrophic. Most of the people that write the peak oil impacts that the app's going to read are kind of conspiracy theorists, to be honest. They're sort of not qualified and they're kind of hacks because it should have happened multiple times already. I'm not going to get into the abiotic thing. There are some people that think that oil gets produced by the heat in the Earth's mantle and just seeps up through cracks in the ground and isn't made of dinosaurs. They're wrong. All right. Yes? I'm sorry? That would be super deflation of the oil, right? If the oil prices got so low that the oil was actually less expensive than the barrel, and the answer to that question is no, it would not happen. Cool. 5, 10.
12-minute break. Go.
Whoa! 12-minute break. If you have more questions, ask me. We're going to have a demo debate coming up between, on the affirmative, Shelby Pryor of the University of North Texas, on the negative, Sarah Spring of the University of Houston. Bringing you yet another all-female demo debate. All right? Because we're awesome, and that's what we do. All right, male lectures, female debates. Why not? All right. More questions, ask me, take a break. I think Starbucks is closed, sadly.